Production when it comes to music is one of those things that everybody has wildly different opinions about, and it makes sense considering that music in itself is one of the most subjective forms of art in existence. It's often hard to explain why one thing sounds good to one person while the other doesn't. All of this is just to say I have no qualifications to back up my opinions on music production, and I'm going to go on a psychotic rant based on said non-existent qualification, so let's go! Phil Spector is what spawned this video idea. After the recent re-release of John Lennon's Imagine album that included the raw studio mixes of the songs, you could finally hear what these songs were supposed to sound like before Phil Spector ass-raped them with reverb and tape delay. I would generally consider myself a fan of John Lennon's solo work, despite feeling that George Harrison by far had the best solo output of the four Beatles. But something has always kept me from really enjoying his most seminal work. I couldn't pin it down for so long, but hearing the raw studio mixes made me realize that it's because the songs were written as these hard, meaty blues jams with minimal instrumentation, but then Phil Spector added so much reverb that it made the entire thing into a floaty, unsatisfying mess.
Don't wanna be a soldier, mama. I don't wanna die. Don't wanna be a soldier, mama. I don't.
He took all the oomph out of the original recordings. It's the Wall of Sound, dude, it's legendary, everyone, more like Wall of fucking shit! Phil Spector ruined All Things Must Pass by George Harrison, one of the greatest albums of all time, a victim to Phil Spector's Babby's first studio effect production style, and he killed a woman in his mansion! Also not a good thing to do. You know how I was saying Phil Spector's production style was really simple-minded and one-track? As in, all he does is add reverb and or tape delay and then calls it a day? Rick Rubin is even more basic than that. All he does is just turn every fucking track up to peaking audio levels. It is downright headache-inducing to listen to, nay, endure Rick Rubin's music production. System of a Down is one of my favorite metal bands of all time. Their music has this utterly unique sound to it with the dual vocals by Serge and Darren, the Middle Eastern vibe, and just the general psychotic nature of the music. And it's kinda sad how soon the band came to an end, but luckily they wrapped their discography up with a brilliant double album release tied together by the breathtaking Soldier Side. But then Rick Rubin fucking ruined it and made it actively hard to listen to because of how compressed and unnecessarily peaked the audio sounds. You could say he fucking mass murdered those albums and didn't acknowledge or pay reparations for the deed. Unfortunate choice of words. He's done this to several artists. Red Hot Chili Peppers makes a pretty good album, ruined by Rubin. Metallica releases a new album that actually has a quality material after a 5-year hiatus, ruined by Rubin. Black Sabbath finally reunites after 35 years of Ozzy Osbourne being out of the band. For fuck's sake, is nothing sacred to you, ruined by Rubin. And the worst part is that unlike Phil Spector, where you can say there's a happy ending where the unfucked mix gets released, there is no such thing for Rick Rubin, because most of the albums he's fucked up are simply too recent to have remasters yet. Let me just start off by stating that Frank Zappa is my favorite musical artist of all time. There is simply nobody like him. He made music that went so far outside the conventional form of what we've come to expect from popular music that for the uninitiated, it blows the brains out the back of your head, leaving you only to pick up your splattered brain matter, put it back in, and continue running headfirst at the music until it finally clicks and you realize it's brilliant. He has tossed out the popular conventions on how to make music like it was used toilet paper, with musicianship of such a high caliber that it is genuinely hard to believe. Watch Roxy the movie. It's like watching a fucking magician's act. How are they doing that? Oh yeah, I was doing a video on music production. Frank Zappa's production has generally been top quality, but in a catalog with 50 plus albums of original music, there's bound to be a few misses. My first example will be a pretty controversial pick among people who like Zappa's music, but Hot Rat's original mix is fucking broken, okay? It is simply not complete. Let me demonstrate. Here's the 1969 original mix for the opening song, Peaches on Regalia. Now, there's nothing wrong with that mix. It sounds fine. But in 1987, Frank Zappa remixed Hot Rats, altering it quite drastically, and revealing that this was hiding in the mix. That sped up guitar thing is one of my favorite sounds he ever created for his music. The original mix wasn't bad, but it was just a bunch of block piano chords. Fucking boring! And don't even get me started on the mixing fuckery in regards to Little Umbrellas. For this one, I find it more appropriate to play the 1987 remix first. Wow, what a cool flute solo. How does that come off in the original mix? What the fuck happened? It's not even like it makes sense to the original context of the mix, because it just abruptly cuts off. No fade out or any attempt to cap it off, just a harsh cut. How does anyone like this mix better? It is a genuine question. This is an interesting case where an original mix was fixed by making it shittier sounding, and the only case of which I've ever seen. So, the original mix was done by David Bowie. Funnily enough, in a single day, and it sounded fucking stupid. There was just something really half-hearted about the sound of the whole thing, and it didn't represent the title of the album.
I'm a streetwalking cheater with a hat full of napalm.
But then Iggy Pop came in, took all the effects off the guitars and smashed it with copious layers of distortion, and it fucking worked! I don't know how it worked for this album and this album only, but it did fucking work!
I'm a streetwalking cheater with a hat full of napalm.
It finally comes off what the original intent of the album was. It sounds like the recording equipment itself cannot even contain the sheer intensity of the performance. On a similar note, I cannot tell if Iggy Pop is actually human or not. Can I get an update on that investigation? Wow, that sure was a barrage of inflammatory musical opinions all at once. I know it came off as a little aggressive, but I just didn't feel like I needed to qualify every single statement with, but that's just my opinion, because 1, it ruins the flow of the whole video, and 2, I respect your intelligence enough to assume that you know that when I say something like Imagine by John Lennon had a shitty original mix, it's my opinion, based on context clues like the fact that I'm the one saying it, and it is clearly not a statement that you can prove factually. Okay, bye! Thanks for watching.